Welcome to Story Punk. I am Scott.
Hey, Scott. I'm Drew.
And I was going to say ho-ho, but that's so lame. This is our...
I mean, you can make whatever exclamation of a fantasy character you want on this show.
Sure, there you go. This is our...
Oh, shit. I just ruined Christmas. I'm so sorry.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, for all the little kids out there listening, Santa's real, or whatever. Anyway.
If you're Christian.
Or if you celebrate Christmas, you might not necessarily...
That's true.
I mean, there are atheists that celebrate Christmas.
That's true. But they don't believe in God. They sure as shit don't believe somebody comes down the chimney.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Who are we to say what people believe?
Well, I mean,
people jump through hurdles and do mental gymnastics to make things seem like to fit into their worldview. Anyway, so hey, we're here today to talk about It's a Wonderful Life, and also this is our Christmas episode, so we'll get a little Christmassy too. It's a Wonderful Life, if you didn't know, was directed by Frank
Capra.
Frank Capra.
Because we're against ours on this show.
I know, yeah.
Story punk.
Directed by Frank Capra, and he is, I mean, if you know anything about movies that were made during this era, he directed.
What year was this movie out, Scott?
1946.
Oh, so that era. Got it. Okay.
Yes, that era. And he made quite a few popular movies, and at the time, and so this story basically is, if you don't know this, the plot of this movie.
Well, you didn't explain how you know that Frank Capra is very important, because in all of the movies, if you look at the posters of the era,
yes,
it's all Frank Capra's movie. Frank Capra's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
That's
Frank
true.
Capra's You Can't Take It With You. So
yes.
He's basically like almost as good as John Carpenter.
Yeah, there you go. Frank Capra's The Thing.
Right.
But now I would pay to see that.
I would do Frank Capra's In the Mouth of Madness.
But he is he's dead, so I don't think he's going to... That'd be quite a feat.
That's what AI is for.
There you go. But the sort of the gist of this movie is that an angel is sent from heaven to help a desperately frustrated businessman see the value of his own life.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, I guess. It's weird. The structure of this movie is interesting. What I will say, as far as my, I rewatched this movie the other day. I saw this movie before, but I saw it years ago, and so
like as a kid, you mean?
Yeah, as a kid. Okay. So it's been decades, literally. And my memory of this movie was it was sort of like in blotches. Like I remember scenes. I remember the scene. I remember him as a kid. I remember the scene, him saving his brother. I remember him finding the pills. The pharmacist almost sent the wrong pills to the customer. I remember them dancing over the in the gym, and the pool opens up. I remember him yelling. I distinctly remember him yelling at his kids. I don't know why that memory sticks with me. So I just like these things. I remember that the cop and the taxi driver were Bert and Ernie. I remember that.
Oh, right. Okay.
I remember, and then I remember when he first meets Clarence, where he says, "I wish I was never born." And then I remember him running through the town saying, "Merry Christmas, building alone." And then I remember them all singing at the end of the movie. And that's my memory.
And what's the line? To my big brother George, the richest guy in town.
Yeah.
Like, well, see, it's funny that you say that though, because I saw this movie, and we'll talk about my experience of this movie. But I saw this movie for the first time in lockdown.
Okay.
First Christmas in lockdown. I think it was 2020, as opposed to maybe it was 2021. But so I know almost all of the scenes that you said. Without ever having seen the movie, because that's how seminal this movie is to the movie business, to the history of the movie business, all that kind of stuff. So you could have seen the movie as a kid, not seen the movie for literal decades, as you said, and still every Oscar montage that you saw, and those scenes are there. If you went to, an AMC movie theater that had a promo for the Welcome to AMC or something that showed movie scenes, probably shows George running in the snow and
Merry Christmas,
all that kind of
building
stuff.
alone is such an iconic scene,
right? And so
and I wish I was never born,
right?
That's
burned into our collective memory, and people who've never seen the movie, like me.
Yeah,
I knew those scenes, and I knew what movie they were from, and I knew vaguely what the movie was. And so it's almost a way that it sort of would keep refreshing your memory, but only those scenes that are the most memorable.
Yeah.
But what you don't realize if you've never seen the movie, or maybe this was your experience as well, it's such a really good movie.
I mean, I'm surprised that a movie like that was made. Like, I think we have a time, or I think we have sort of a when we look at older movies, especially ones from sort of like until we get to say, I would say maybe the mid '50s. A lot of the and rightly or wrongly, I mean, I know there's probably some movies out there that'll prove me wrong, but a lot of the emotions in movies from like say from the '40s on back, I think of as very. I feel like emotions are very they're very broad stroked emotions.
Are you talking about like the acting style essentially?
The acting style, but just the way they convey emotions in general.
Okay.
Like when you see like the noir movies, it's like it's very like there's not a lot of nuance.
Gotcha.
I felt like this movie had a lot more nuance than I was expecting. And then of course, I feel like probably the last time I had seen it, I'm sure I was. I mean, at best, I was in high school, so that's quite some time ago. Not to age myself.
Sorry, Grandpa. You didn't see it in 1946, so you're okay.
But and I think that may have something to do with sort of like when you look at the themes of this movie, and you're looking at like I mean, they're big themes like this is one person, how one person, the things that they do in their life, the ripple effect that they have, and that I think that's like sort of like that's a very big like theme. Like I think we all kind of hope that all these little decisions that seem inconsequential to us are adding up to something bigger, especially after watching a movie like this. It's sort of like this idea that that you're actually finding meaning in your life, not through like big like achievements, but sort of like through like these daily acts of service and love and moral responsibility to others, and
Right.
those sort of like add up to something greater than I'm gonna do something like I'm gonna do some kind of great good, like I don't know, like it sounds dumb, but like build an orphanage.
It
or
absolutely
like that.
doesn't sound dumb, and the reason it doesn't sound dumb is what I think.
Well, not that it sounds dumb, but I'm saying like I'm trying to think of like a way to sort of like kind of make that point.
Maybe I can, if I'm understanding what you're saying, which I think I am. So the movie is asking a question about George that the movie then makes you ask about yourself, which is a great way to tell a story, I think, because it's immediately relatable and personal. The question you ask yourself after seeing this movie, which of course you've already asked yourself your entire life to one degree or another, if you have any self-awareness at all, do you matter?
Yeah.
And the movie's theory is that, of course, anyone can matter. And you matter by doing what you just said, which is the small things. That doesn't mean that if you are the greatest quarterback or your FDR,
you don't have to build a hospital,
right? You can do those things, but it doesn't matter. Like if I think of the things that I would consider my values, one of my values is do what you can, and that means that's before this movie or anything.
Yeah,
that means do what you can in your scale in your life. So I don't have enough money to build a hospital.
Yeah.
But I can volunteer at a soup kitchen that makes a real difference in the life of a real human being. And this is not a story about how Jimmy Stewart's character discovers that he can save the world starting in this small town. It's a story about him mattering.
Yeah.
And it's so like genuinely inspirational in that way. It's a very beautiful movie. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
I really had no idea how much I was going to be moved. And my wife grew up, and I think for her experience of the movie, it was like a thing that some people watched and she didn't really feel invited to watch it. So she had never seen it either, even though she grew up celebrating Christmas and stuff.
Yeah.
We wept. I mean, it's beautiful.
It is. It's like sort of, like to the point of what you're saying. It's like just these little things. Like I think about. Like I said, I'm not in a financial position to make any kind of like large donation. Nobody's going to build a hospital wing named after me or anything like that.
That's clearly your ambition, though.
It's definitely because I'm a total narcissist. But no,
no, because you've mentioned it several times. And building a hospital could be, you could build a hospital because you could be like, you know what hospitals do? They make a shitload of money. But that's not why you're saying it. You're saying it because a hospital can help people.
But what I can do, like these little things, and this seems almost inconsequential, but you never know what kind of impact you're going to have by doing these little things. And it's like one of the things that I told my son, like I remember when he was really young, he asked me why, like when we go to a store, like I always say like, you know, I always make a point to say, have a nice day. Or like, I always like say, I'm always very nice to the people that are serving me. And I'm like, because you never know, that person might be having a shitty day.
Yeah.
And you saying, have a nice day to that person, that might be the freaking highlight of their day.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and then you never know what they might then do. And I'm not saying you're going to say, have a nice day to someone, and then they're going to go out and they're going to discover the cure for cancer. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, they might say, have a nice day to somebody else who's having a crappy day.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing.
Yeah. And that's like, so, you know, it's okay that you're doing nice things that are small, and hopefully they'll add up. And I think that's sort of what what Clarence kind of ends up letting George kind of discover on his own.
Well, I mean, at my job, I spend a lot of time on the phone with people who are asking for help, and I can't help all of them in the system that I'm working in. But people are asking for help, and I've had a lot. And I'll be honest, I'm proud of this. I've had a lot of people say, "You're the only person who's nice to me. You're the only person who calls me back. You're the only person who answers the phone." And when I hear that, I think I'm really glad that I was able to be a person that was decent to you in a time where you are in a very tough place. But I also think, well, I don't get to talk to everybody. I don't know that I can promise you that I'll return a call in a timely manner every time.
Yeah.
I don't answer the phone when you call because I'm talking to somebody else. So maybe you feel like I'm ignoring you. But that's just me putting myself like I'm not doing enough. And that's the movie is about. No, it is enough. It's not about chasing some sort of perfect version of good, or you, like you said, it only matters if you do something huge.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, why, like, I don't believe in angels and things like that, and I don't find that sort of thing compelling. I believe that, you know, we are in this world, in this void, that we essentially live in an existence where we have no meaning in some bigger sense. We're not the center of anything, this planet, or any of that kind of stuff. But that's not bad, because we can give our lives meaning by what we do and who we are and how we behave. And this movie says you can be a real force for positivity in your little town. That doesn't help the next town over necessarily, but maybe it does because you go shopping there and you say, have a nice day.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sweet.
And another thing too is, speaking of like sort of like the community aspect, like on a smaller level too, one of the other themes that I feel is very, very sort of relevant to today is that you have sort of this tension between this community-based capitalism, for lack of a better word,
Okay.
and it against this sort of this almost this predatory, voracious greed of Mr. Potter. You know, you have this building and loan, which are people that are working together, and I call it like community-based capitalism. For I don't know what else you would call it, but I mean it's because I mean in and of itself, you know, I think some of the ways that capitalism can be implemented are, you know, I don't feel like they're all bad ways. And I think like in a case like this, it's not. You know, it basically you have people that are working together. You know, that's what a building and loan is basically people pulling their money together. It's, I guess, to describe it to people that aren't familiar, it would be the closest thing to, I guess, like a credit union. Now,
I think that's fair.
That's probably a better.
Which the whole vibe of a credit union and people in the popular imagination is they're a bank, but they're nicer.
They're a bank.
They're more local. They're more personal.
But it is supposed to be.
Even if they're not, that's the vibe.
Yeah. I mean, I think like using that as sort of the idea of what it's supposed to represent. It's like it's people with a common interest. So whether it's because you all were in the Navy or whatever, like
Right.
that,
Well, it's part of the community. That's right.
Yeah, you're part of the community. You're pulling your money together, and so that when the credit union gives you a loan, it's really more or less taking money like somebody else who put money in there.
Right.
That money's being used, and that's sort of what the idea of a building and loan is. The danger of that is what you see in this movie is that if someone like Mr. Potter who sits there and says, "Oh, I don't know about that, seems a little shaky," if everybody wants their money out, building a loan can get fucked over pretty quickly because they only have that money. It's not like they're not like from my understanding, they're not like FDIC insured and stuff like that. Like the money is everybody's money, so you get a few people that want their money, and then
also keep in mind this is a movie made in released in 1946.
Yes,
right. So that's 10 years ago was the Depression, when people really did like these people who made this movie, these people who watched this movie when it came out. They lived through a time where if somebody said that in a movie, they'd be like, "Yeah, I remember when I went to the bank and all of my money was gone." Like they literally lived through runs on banks and all that kind of stuff. And so, we haven't lived in an era where it's happened like that on its scale. And we may be working on that now. I don't know. But I think see, to me, the movie is such an interesting reflection of another movie that I had never seen until around the same time. I had read the story a long time ago, but I ended up watching a few different versions of A Christmas Carol, which is about Mr. Potter being a big piece of shit, and changing his ways, and it's really interesting because the way that he's good is he's like, I have money, I'm going to spend it on good things, and then the community's like, hey man, you're all right. Whereas this community, they don't have to save Mr. Potter. Yeah, they just have to be a real community, and that's what they are by the end of the movie. Yeah, there's something that Jimmy Stewart sees.
Yeah, I want to talk about A Christmas Carol when we.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something about that. Well,
I've seen enough of them. I actually have a favorite version. As somebody who doesn't watch a lot of Christmas movies.
So speaking of the time this came out, so this came out in December of 1946. So it was almost a year after World War II, and. Which is very interesting that a lot of the critics and the audience as well were very divided on this movie. From my research that I was finding out that
not an instant classic, I guess.
No, they actually, a lot of people thought it was too sappy and out of touch.
Yeah.
Because they wanted more like optimism after all these years of war. They didn't want a Christmas Tale that was dealing with like suicide and despair. Like they're like, hey, that's not the vibe we're looking for right now.
Right.
And but then it was like,
had there been some recent international unpleasantness or something?
I think so. And then, but what's interesting though, this is actually really interesting. 3 decades later, so in the 1970s, it actually, It's a Wonderful Life, for whatever reason, became part of the public domain. And so they started showing it on TV all the time.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it was at that point that it was like the audience at that point was sort of, they were more willing to accept a movie like that. And they were connecting more with sort of those ideals. Didn't feel like it was too sentimental. They were okay embracing sort of like these darker themes.
But you know why it caught people's imagination in that later time.
What was it?
It's the power of nostalgia for what we imagine the time that it was in was like. Yeah. I mean, there are so many different versions of that in our culture right now. Like that's literally what Make America Great Again is. It's like we need to go backwards to something, which generally is the 50s, that's a very interesting time to choose as the time everything was good and everything was simpler.
What I think it is, it's directly to the 80s, but I do feel like there was a lot of 50s nostalgia in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Back to the Future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's one example.
Right. And this is a movie 10 years before that.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to learn that not only that it wasn't a hit, because sometimes these classic movies, they find an audience later, and sometimes you go, well, I mean, that was ahead of its time. But this was like real mainstream entertainment that didn't really hit.
Yeah.
And then later audiences Like, this wasn't a movie that your grandma saw in the theater and then showed you because it's so wonderful and you guys need to see it.
Yeah.
Like, you probably showed your grandma at some point and
Yeah.
they're like, "Do you remember this movie?" And she's like, "Yeah." But it wasn't. It didn't. It was still like it was a. It was a big movie and a commercial release and everything. But it wasn't. I don't think if people liked Frank Capra movies that this was like another Frank Capra movie that really knocked it out of the park.
Which is funny because apparently this is one of Frank Capra's favorite movies.
Of
like,
course,
that he made. So.
yeah, of course it is.
But I mean,
it's
I
a
think,
very small personal story about the difference a man makes in the world around him. And if you're Frank Capra, that's not a small theme in your movies. I mean, he's the same guy as Mr. Smith that goes to Washington and everything. So
what's interesting,
it's like a sequel to this movie.
is you know that Frank Capra before this movie, he was making World War II propaganda movies.
Yes.
And so this was sort of his first movie back.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he was looking to make something a little more personal.
Well, also you'd think he'd want to make something a little lighter, and at the end of the movie, you're like, "This is much lighter." And you're watching the movie, it ain't that light.
Yeah. The overall, you're right about that. It's not the lightest. But it's interesting that the way that the way that they structure it also, because when you're watching the movie, it's basically telling the story of it. It's like I kept waiting for it to be like, oh, now Clarence is going to show up, because I mean I've seen the parts with Clarence, but you're like oh no, it's like we're going to go through the whole story up to where Clarence. It just like for some reason I didn't realize they were going to kind of do it that way, because so basically 2/3 of the movie is George's backstory.
Yeah,
and then you get to the part where it's like, okay, now we're going to show you what it's like if you were never born.
Do you have a? You're saying that surprised you? Did you have a problem with that? Like,
no, I didn't have a problem with that. Because I'll be honest with you, I can't really say that I have a suggestion of how I thought you could have done it better, but it just was sort of like it's like you're watching it and you're like, oh, okay, so we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep, because I kind of thought what was gonna happen was that they were going to have just his younger years, maybe up to the point of where he was gonna, he kept talking about how he was gonna go. He was going to go up after high school or after college or whatever.
He was going to leave and go to the big city and have a big life.
I thought Clarence was going to insert himself at that point, but like, no, we're going to go all the way through till he gets to his lowest point. And so I was like,
which is much more interesting.
Yes, and that's actually, that does make it a the way that the story that it sort of speaks to the way that they decided to edit the movie, which is funny because apparently I think there was 2 writers on this, and one of the writers did not like that. I don't think it was originally written that way.
Oh,
and he hated it. He hated it, that the way that they ended up, the way that the final version of the movie.
It was written by Francis Goodrich and Albert Hackett.
I forget
on Story Punk. We will always acknowledge the writer's contribution. So.
And I have to look up which one it was, but one of them did not like it at all. He was like, no.
Well, and he's a guy, I mean, he wrote things like The Thin Man and 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. Like, again, these are big Hollywood successful people. And so he's a writer, so his opinion didn't matter to anybody. But it's interesting because that's a guy who has been working in the business and is a successful and continue to be successful.
What's also interesting about
this movie, he was 95. Wow.
Damn. What's also interesting is that did you know that because of the way that Mr. Potter was portrayed in this movie, the FBI actually investigated the movie because they didn't like the fact that the banker was made out to be such a villain in the movie.
I can't believe some part of our law enforcement system would
insert itself where it shouldn't be,
but would be devoted to protecting what's essentially a financial interest. That's shocking.
They said that the FBI they investigated the film for making the banker a villain, and I'm like, wow. Oh, here's another little.
I'm sorry. I meant to say. Also, the other writer, Frances Goodrich, she was married to Albert Hackett. So this married couple wrote this movie together.
Okay.
That also wrote The Thin Man and 7 Brides for 7 Brothers and stuff.
Interesting.
So it's interesting that
one
of them had a real serious problem with it. And the other one also would look at something that's not what they wrote as far as structure, and
Yeah.
I mean, isn't known for complaining.
Yeah.
Now, it's also possible writers don't matter. A woman writer in the 40s maybe matters less, but it's interesting because I think the movie is so distinct. And of course, to talk about stories, a screenplay changing between the screenplay and the movie. We've talked about this. Of course, there are differences because you've got, one ink-stained wretch, and then you've got, literally hundreds of other people that are making decisions that are, out of the writer's purview and everything. And so it's interesting to see sometimes how these pieces come together.
Did you
throwing trash all over the studio? Son of a bitch.
I just dropped. I'll pick that up later. Did you know who was originally considered? Well, I shouldn't say originally, but was considered at some point in the process to play Mr. Potter?
Do I know this? I think it was Sean Penn.
No, it was Sean Penn.
Yeah, Sean Penn as Lockjaw.
As Lockjaw, that would have been great. No,
because all the mouth acting.
Yeah, Vincent Price.
Oh, really?
That would have been a different vibe.
That would have been a different vibe.
Totally different vibe.
Not necessarily even a bad vibe.
No. I don't think it would have been necessarily bad. It just would have been definitely a different vibe. So here is something that is interesting as far as technical achievement. Did you know that they came up with a different way of making fake snow in this movie?
No.
This was hold on, let me find it. Okay, so the snow for this film was created. It was basically a technical revolution because it was silent. The way that they used to do snow in the movies was they used to just, before this, they used to just paint frosted flake or cornflakes white, but it's very loud.
Oh,
so
sure,
they would have to do like dialogue replacement for all of that. So they wanted to have, so in the snowfall there was there's some quiet dialogue scenes, and they wanted to have silent snow
and use the sound as they recorded it as the actual performance.
So they did this thing. It was this fake snow made of like foamite, sugar, water, and soap flakes, and they actually won a technical achievement Oscar for this.
Wow!
So, and I have to say, I do remember looking when I was watching this, and I was like, that snow looks really real. Like I thought it looked very realistic.
That's cool.
And I was like, this is 46. They were not shooting outside the snowstorm, So. But that is a little bit of trivia there. Oh, and can I also say, right now on the podcast, fuck Uncle Billy, that jerk. Poor George. George, great guy, trying to do the best he can, and then Uncle Billy, because he's like whatever, loses $8,000. $8,000 is a lot. Oh, speaking of inflation, money wise, here, I looked this up. When Mr. Potter offers George $20,000, I looked that up, adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
So do you know why he spit? The reason he spit out his drink that's like almost $360,000. So that's quite a bit to be just like someone, just to be a yes man.
That's like several trips up to buy groceries.
Yeah,
for sure. So,
but that is
that really that attacks the affordability issue.
Yeah, definitely, and someone who is he knows Mr. Potter, so evil, knows just where to he talks about like you could go on a trip to Europe. He knows just where he knows those pain points for George, because George. And this is the thing that I sort of didn't expect in this movie, sort of the nuance that I didn't really feel like was something that and maybe this is just my ignorance, but I don't feel like a lot of the older movies, like these older like black and white movies, just not necessarily conveying a lot of this nuanced emotion that I really felt in this movie was just you just felt like the light, like George was just getting further and further away, and it was but it's so like, it's like subtle, but you just watch, and it's like every little thing keeps coming up, and he's getting further and further away, and I think that is something that really resonates with people, especially the older you get, and like the scene where he's sort of like at just about at his lowest point. I think he's like one step away from the lowest point that he gets in the movie when he goes home and he's upset and he's kind of like yelling at his family. Like that really, like for someone be like with kids, like that really hits home because you're like, I think anybody anybody that has anybody that has someone in their life, whether it's a wife or a family or whatever that you live with, and that they see you at a moment where you're not at your best and maybe you lose your cool. It's like, and like the instant sort of like regret and shame if you're a decent person, you know what I mean, and you lose your, he's like, yeah. Dad, how do you spell hallelujah? He's like, how am I supposed to know? I'm not a dictionary. And haven't you figured out how to play that song yet? Like just watching that, that's, I think most people can identify with that, where you sort of show this like this ugly side to the people that you care about the most, and it's just like it really, and it's on Christmas on top of that, Christmas Eve, and it's such a I just wasn't expecting that, that would be something that I would see in a movie like this. And this is sort of why I was saying that I kind of felt like those older movies were very broad stroked. And this was sort of like, this is like pinpoint accuracy, especially for somebody like me. When I've seen that, it's like, oh, I've been there. I've been very upset. And, maybe
you've ruined Christmas, you're saying.
Well, I've never ruined Christmas, thankfully, knock on wood. But I've had a situation where that, maybe, I've been just like, it's just been a terrible day, and maybe I've snapped at somebody that I care about, and it's like the immediate regret. It's like right away. It's like sometimes it's like as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you're like, I shouldn't have said that, and it's like, and even if
because you're a decent person,
yeah, and even
it doesn't
when you
make
apologize,
you negative.
and even when you apologize right away, like you can say, I should have said, I'm sorry, or whatever. Yeah. It still doesn't. You still feel terrible that it even happened. And it's like when I watched that in this movie, I was like, man, this is really like, this is not the kind of level of acting that I was sort of expecting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I tend to think of the beginning of what feels like the kind of acting that we see in the movies in this era that we grew up on. I tend to think of that as something out of the 50s, like On the Waterfront or Rebel Without a Cause and stuff like that. And not that there weren't movies in the 50s that were like this older style as well. But yeah, that's a great example of a classic Hollywood movie from an era of some amazing films, but that also has a lot of the
the transatlantic accent.
And all that
I think
kind
we're
of flat,
starting to transition.
Yeah, because there's a flatness to it, and Jimmy Stewart has. It's funny that it's him.
Yeah,
because he has such a distinct twang and brand, and he couldn't be more different as a person than Charles Lindbergh. But his portrayal of Lindbergh in Spirit of St. Louis is another iconic role where he is this guy, but even though he's so distinctly, I'm not going to do an impression of it, but he's so distinctly, you're welcome. He's so distinctly Jimmy Stewart, but he also feels so real. He's so real. Like what you're saying is very relatable. And I don't have kids, but I've gotten mad at people and then immediately felt terrible. If you saw Mr. Potter do that to his family in this movie, you'd be like, well, yeah, because he's a dick.
Yeah.
But that's not like Jimmy Stewart doesn't really believe those things. He doesn't really feel that way about his family. He doesn't really treat them like that, but that tells you how much pain he's in.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ever explain.
I think it's supposed to be, well, you don't have to be jarring.
Right, but you don't have to say, oh, he's sad because he's worried about his life not matter. Like it just shows you the pain that he's in. And it's also kind of an interesting early portrayal of mental illness, of depression, of things that are very modern subjects.
What's very interesting,
like the same way Dog Day Afternoon was way ahead of where you would expect some of the way that it portrays real people and real lives would be.
What's interesting to find out is that apparently this movie, when it was shot, was not too long after Jimmy Stewart had actually come back from the war, and they say he was probably experiencing PTSD himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that informed his performance, then I mean, he did a heck of a job, because it's like he is, he's one of those people that you can, when he is sort of having like these sort of the introspective moments in his acting while he's acting with someone, and it's like he really sells it. He really, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the way his face looks, or how, but you really feel like, yeah, I don't know. I just really buy what he's selling there. You know what I mean? When he's, and he's just one of those. I guess he's considered an iconic actor. That there's a reason for it. And I love his stuff in Alfred Hitchcock. I love Rear Window. I love The Man Who Knew Too. I love The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's just, I don't know. There's something about there's a. Most people probably wouldn't describe the movie. There's something kind of almost funny, like underlying that whole movie. I don't know what it is, but it's like it's never really expressed, and especially the very end of the movie when he comes back. He said, "We're back." Like, I don't know. You have to see the movie to even understand that. But anyway.
See, and I love him in I'm totally Harvey.
Okay,
the Giant Bunny movie.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, it's worth a watch. It's really interesting. And of course, what I also love him in, and me saying this is not like I'm the only one who appreciates it or something. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Okay,
is a movie about gigantic things and gigantic things about our country and our history and things about Westerns as a movie genre and all this other stuff. And Jimmy Stewart.
Is Henry Fonda in that movie too?
No, he's in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, I know that.
Is it Lee Marvin? I think is the villain.
No. Once Upon a Time in the West, Henry Fonda's the villain.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Okay.
It's John Wayne, Lee Marvin, James Stewart, Vera Miles. Yeah.
Jeez,
so
that was
Lee Marvin is Liberty Valance is the title character, and who's the villain. And the man, it's interesting because The Man Who Shoots Liberty Valance it's a movie like who's going to do justice? Is it going to be John Wayne, who is, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, a cartoon of an American man, cowboy, all this kind of stuff, or is it going to be Jimmy Stewart, who's like a decent man, and he's that decent man in a lot of these roles, and part of him being a decent man is that you don't believe that he would mean it if he talked to his kids like that, and that he would feel bad about it.
Something else too that I wanted to bring up is about the cinematography in this movie. I think is done very well. I like the way that they make a very distinct contrast between regular life Bedford Falls is very soft lighting, and and the Never Been Born Potterville is done like is done very harsh, like almost like film noir type lighting, especially like I really think about it in the scene with where he goes and sees Mary, and she just he's like, "Mary, it's me," and she's like, "I don't know you." You know what I mean? Like that's done very that's done very well to sort of, it makes that distinction. And I know you're probably, most people are probably like, well, yeah, duh, but it's like it is, but it makes a difference. I know it might seem very obvious, but it is like you start making these connections.
I don't know about it. I don't know about it being obvious in the way that you mean, because people might see the movie and feel what you're saying, which is the point.
Yeah, I got
but
you.
Not be able to say
sure
technically why. I mean, we're interested in both, but that is a deliberate storytelling choice that works, obviously.
I'm trying to look to see, was there anything else that I
Well, do you want to talk about the other thing that we had talked about?
Yeah,
which is,
well, I wanted to say before, but
okay.
Before we got to that, I just wanted to see. Jeez, you know that I was actually looking at that the FBI agents that saw this actually deemed this to be communist propaganda, and had referred this to the House Un-American Activities Committee. Jesus,
yeah,
good grief.
That was a different time as far as the government reaching into our lives.
It almost doesn't seem like it.
No, it doesn't.
I got it. Oh, it was the joke. I got it. No, sorry.
Good job.
I know. Anyway, so
why are we whispering? Are we talking about cancer?
No, we just don't want to. We don't know if the FBI is outside with I don't know what parabolic mics. I don't know. Anyway, so one of the other things that we wanted to talk about a little bit is just Christmas movies in general.
Yes.
I think we've kind of talked about this movie. I mean, I don't know. Was there anything else left to say about this? You think we kind of covered?
No, I mean, there's a lot of things to say about this movie. It's I think it's such a in a way, and it's the point. It's such a small story, and I actually think it's really wonderful that it ultimately caught the popular imagination the way that it did, And so I really knew nothing about it before I saw it.
Yeah.
I just didn't. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I mean, I'm Jewish and I didn't grow up watching Christmas movies or any of that kind of stuff. So when I encountered it as an adult, it was like, I'm going to watch a classic movie. This movie did not fill me with the Christmas spirit. I don't really know what that's supposed to feel like because I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah. No.
But it did feel very human and beautiful and observed and real and all these other things. And that's why I was so excited. And I was asked to watch it by a friend who I would trade movies with. He loves classic movies, and he'd be like, you really should watch, and I love older movies. It's not like I was against it. He's like, you really should watch this beautiful, wholesome thing that you've never seen. And I'd be like, okay, if you watch this movie about, I don't know, aliens that come out of your butt or whatever, then we would trade movies. And he'd go, yep, I watched it. And I would go, thank you, John. This is so good. So thank you, John. Kelly and I both got a lot out of this movie. And it's funny because this is a movie, if you told me you have to watch this every year, okay, I mean, that would be all right, but I don't have to watch it at Christmas.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, that's the thing about it is that there's a lot of, I think being at Christmas makes the movie more poignant, but it doesn't necessarily make it, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a story told at Christmas, or doesn't necessarily have to be like a Christmas type story. I mean, honestly, this could be a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, no, sure, it could be. Well, also, I mean, to me, I love the winter. I love snow. I love all that stuff. So they wouldn't have invented the good snow if it wasn't set at Christmas time. But also, I mean, it's a real winter movie. And I mean, I'm weird. There's certain movies that I think of as holiday movies because I associate them with this season, and some of it is the vibe, the feel, the weather. Like one of the movies, if you said I had to watch this movie every year, I would watch it now.
Yeah,
is The Great Escape. And
okay.
I don't really know why. I guess maybe the first time I saw it, it was snow on the ground outside or something. But I just associate that, and that's a movie about community and cooperation, and all these other things. So maybe my experience of the holiday season and what you're supposed to feel, which isn't about shopping, but also in America isn't about Jesus's birthday in any like real way for a lot of people. But Christmas means something, and family and all these other things. Maybe it's that. The community.
I mean, like growing up for me, growing up Catholic, it's like, and certainly my life has changed over the years, and as far as my relationship to any kind of
faith, you mean?
Yeah, to faith and a kind of religious connotation with the Christmas season. It was like our family like Christmas, either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Usually Christmas Eve, we'd go to church. It was like a whole thing, and so I have certain memories of Christmas, and so there are certain movies that you watch that kind of like sort of ping these feelings.
Sure.
Now I'll be honest. For me, it's a lot more like some of the TV shows that do it more for me as far as like so there's a lot of like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer
right,
that show Santa Claus is Coming to Town and A Year Without a Santa. Those are the three that I was like, these are the shows, that the Grinch and that's and Charlie Brown,
and you'd watch that every year.
Those are the ones
that's
that
the
I
stuff
watched.
My wife Kelly grew up on that as well, so I didn't watch them until she showed them to me, so I encountered them as an adult. But I get, because that's something you don't have to go to the theater. That was part of your Christmas at home experience.
Yeah, how the Grinch Stole Christmas was like, that was probably like that's a movie. It's like anime. It's a movie, but it's like, but most of the other ones were shows.
It's not a masterwork like the Ron Howard version.
Sure. Yeah, really. But like the only other like movies were like the different variations of, we were talking before about the Christmas Carol. There's a different and so there's that. Now I remember as a kid mainly watching the really old black and white one.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
May have been what's his face, the guy that played Mr. Potter. May have been, or no, it
was Alastair Sim. Alastair Sim played.
Yes, Lionel Barrymore played
Mr. Potter. Yeah,
yeah, but he did a radio show of it. not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Not,
Okay.
but there's that and Miracle on 34th Street. Those
Sure.
those are the only like movies, because a lot of the movies that people kind of associate with Christmas now are not. I was older, like so, like probably the like Christmas Vacation and Home Alone. I mean, I was older when those came out. I
Right.
was in high school.
Those aren't movies that you grew up on as a little kid, believing in
Yeah.
Santa era of your life, that kind of stuff.
and Elf. You know what I mean? Those
Right.
are the
I mean, I
new
saw
ones.
Elf in the theater. That movie is almost 20 years old.
I know.
That movie is delightful.
I mean, that movie's
And
made by
it's-
the guy that did Iron Man and the
Right.
Mandalorian. So
And
this
it
is
starred
not an
in
old.
he starred
Yeah.
in Swingers, and Santa
Yeah.
in that movie's a nice Jewish man.
Oh,
Ed Asner.
yeah, that's right.
I met him. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
dead now, but I think. But that's a very sweet movie. That and I don't mind seeing a movie that's explicitly associated with the holidays. I'm not saying that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't reject the Christmas spirit. or
No,
something.
no.
It's just not something I grew up with. But to me, when you talk about what is a Christmas movie,
Yeah.
I think that a Christmas movie is more than just a movie that's set at Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And people go, "Oh, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Let's do a podcast about it." Like,
I think that's just to be funny.
I know, but
yeah.
I mean, it's the classic example of it's a movie that's set at Christmas. I'm like, okay, so is Die Hard 2 a Christmas movie? Like, give me a break. But I think a movie like Eyes Wide Shut is a Christmas movie because it's actually about themes that are similar to this movie
Well,
and to
here,
the
I
Christmas
have a
Carol.
list of movies that take
Oh,
place
okay.
during. So you tell
Okay.
me. So there's Die Hard, which you say is not. Eyes Wide Shut.
Mm-hmm.
Lethal Weapon takes place during Christmas.
Yeah, see, I don't remember that being part of
Yeah.
it other than there's a scene in the Christmas tree lot or something.
There's the scene in the Christmas tree lot, and there's also when he fights Mr. Joshua. Like, don't they run a car through the front of Danny Glover's house?
Yes,
And
yes.
there's a Christmas tree in there.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's a note
See,
on the Christmas
I'm-
tree.
Not that I dislike Lethal Weapon or anything. I'm a Lethal Weapon 2 guy.
Okay.
Because I think the problem with Lethal Weapon is the villains aren't interesting enough, and the South Africans
Okay.
in Lethal Weapon 2 are
Diplomatic immunity?
such has just been revoked. It's just,
That's the
it's
best.
it's so they're so evil,
cheesy.
and that's the
And you
first
got Joe
one.
Pesci.
I was going to say that introduced, but your blick. When he wants to it's just funny, and I don't think of either of those movies as holiday movies. I mean, to me, honestly, a holiday movie. Well, but to me, a holiday movie might be that's when it came out. Like,
Yeah.
is Terminator 2. I still remember seeing Terminator 2 Judgment Day at the theater. I still remember lining up to see that. I was 15. I still remember lining up and waiting like 45 minutes for my screening to get a good seat back when you had to do that kind of stuff. That's a summer movie.
Yeah.
So to me,
I
Christmas
remember
movie,
waiting to see. I was in Ocean City and was waiting in line at a thing in Ocean City, Maryland, for those that
Yes.
are wondering.
But I mean, that's a summer movie, which is a movie season. And so Christmas movies are in a movie season
Yeah.
to me. And so are there things that are in common? Yes. But like this list that you're saying, they're all Christmas movies in that sense if they came out at that time. But there are Christmas movies that came out that are set at Christmas that came out in July.
Well, what about so then you have Batman Returns. Now, Batman Returns takes place during Christmas.
I saw that in Israel.
Did you? What'd you think?
It was super weird.
Yes,
And my
it
friends
is
that I
actually
saw
kinda
it,
weird.
it's super weird.
It's definitely more Tim Burton. They
Well-
let Tim Burton be more Tim Burton in that movie.
Also,
that's for sure.
what movie was what year
Christopher
was that
Walken
movie?
was in it.
Was that 80,
Well,
89 was the first
89 was the
Batman.
first one. Yeah, so this is probably like 91, maybe.
Something like 91, 92.
91 would be.
I found Danny DeVito exceptionally disturbing
Yeah.
and sad.
Yes.
Like, I felt awful for him. And when he,
And I think he was
spoiler,
supposed to be.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It worked. And when he dies at the end and his body is floating away and the penguins are like escorting him or something, like
Yeah.
it's really kind of beautiful. But that movie, and I'm definitely not the only person who thinks that movie is about Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, I was like 16 or something.
Have
and,
you seen that clip of Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito talking about their roles as the Penguin? And Danny DeVito,
No.
like Colin Farrell, is desperately trying to stop Danny DeVito from saying something inappropriate about Michelle Pfeiffer. It is so funny because he's like, oh yeah, and she was in that, and like you see like Colin Farrell keep trying to steer the conversation
funny.
away from it. It's so funny, especially considering where Colin Farrell, like how much of a he's done such a 180 from where he used to be like party boy, like
Yeah.
inappropriate, to like
That's
him.
what we call a Warren Beatty.
Yeah, I guess. Like, oh god. Anyway, I think Warren Beatty's lost his mind, but that's a whole other story.
No, but Warren Beatty was the womanizer of Hollywood, and then Annette Bening.
Yeah,
they've been together forever. She tamed him. Look, I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer was Catwoman. She wasn't the first Catwoman. She was Eartha Kitt. But every time they keep remaking Batman, and every time they remake Batman, I'm like, are we going to do Catwoman? Who's Cat? Oh, it's Anne Hathaway. Okay, it's Zoe Kravitz. Okay, but I mean that movie was in a very not Christmas experience when I saw it.
Yeah.
Obviously, but like if you had asked me to name like 50 Christmas set movies, that wouldn't be one of them. The only other thing I remember about that one is that there's a whole plot line where Christopher Walken is going to build a power plant that steals power from Gotham City instead of powering Gotham City. And that is a stupid idea that the movie then forgets about.
Well, apparently it was based on Trump, so.
Yeah, right. Trump star of Home Alone 2.
There you go. Gremlins also takes place.
Sure. Now, see, that I think of as a Christmas movie, not only because of when it's set and its environment and all that stuff.
Well, it is also a gift. It was part, like, the Gremlin was a gift. So
right, it was a Christmas gift. Exactly.
In,
Absolutely. And Gremlins 2, talk about a movie that's way ahead of its time in terms of making fun of being a movie and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I just, the way that it makes fun of movie tropes and familiar things that you see that are things like, you know, what happened on Christmas was sad, and like the whole like dad got stuck in a chimney and died and all that kind of, like, it's just that I associate that movie with Christmas more because it's about that. But of course, is that a Christmas movie? I don't think so.
And then Trading Places.
Yeah, I hate that movie. There's one scene that's amazing, but otherwise I hate it.
And then there's one that. Are you making a Jamie Lee Curtis reference?
That's a good scene too.
Yeah. There is and then there's one movie. Then there is a movie that I have to bring up. Love Actually, what everybody talks about.
No, that's a Christmas movie for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are some of the movies that I was just going to bring up.
Well, but I think it's worth looking at some of the, like I have said over the years that I believe Eyes Wide Shut is a Christmas movie, and people who love Christmas movies and are into Christmas movies and generally aren't Jewish, they think I'm out of my mind, and they're happy to tell me that. But I think it's a Christmas movie because, especially when you look at the later part of the movie, Tom Cruise's character goes on this journey through this world of genuine danger and survives. Yeah. And the next day, he goes back to those places, and he sees essentially, oh, this is the kind of danger I was in. This is what could have happened.
Yeah.
And so that is It's a Wonderful Life. And what's Family Man? Is that the Nicolas Cage movie where he sees his life without him or something?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Something like that. And like that.
Or was it The Weatherman?
No, The Weatherman is that's a really fun movie.
That's a Nicolas Cage movie too, right?
That's about him and his daughter. And,
okay.
Yeah. But like the idea of, that's when you see what your life is and you look ahead and you look back. That's A Christmas Carol. That's It's a Wonderful Life. That's Eyes Wide Shut, all this kind of stuff. That to me is Christmassy. And obviously it is. But to me that's is reflected in a movie that isn't necessarily considered a Christmas movie, because the other thing that a Christmas movie is for me, and we've sort of said this, it's a vibe. Yeah. And Eyes Wide Shut is a New York City decorated for Christmas, and like there's a scene at the party at the beginning where the guy's flirting with Nicole Kidman in I guess it's Sidney Pollack's house. Yeah. And like just the lighting and the sheets of Christmas lights and the softness of it and all that, like that's all very Christmassy. And plus I saw that movie in the theater with my dad in 1999. The same year I saw American Pie in the theater with my mom in 1999. So maybe seeing explicit movies with family is a Christmas thing for me too. I'm not sure. But I think it is actually interesting to talk about what movies are Christmas movies, if they might actually be Christmas movies. Like I've never heard anybody make a case that Die Hard is really a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always tongue in cheek. I mean, I always kind of feel like that. To me, like I do wonder, is Home Alone really? Is it really a Christmas movie?
Well, I mean, Home Alone is about like unbelievably shitty parenting.
Yes.
So in a way, it's kind of like the movie Frozen, also about absent, horrible, neglectful parents.
Well, I mean, their parents died. I mean, it makes them a little. That's how it feels.
In Frozen?
Yeah, they died.
Wait, but I mean, the whole movie is about parents that weren't good when they were there, and then they're gone. And so to me, I don't get Home Alone, I guess. I don't think it's funny or interesting. I don't
I
think
do
it's
think it's
offensive.
interesting that he could have called the cops at any time and he chose not to.
Well, he decided to do the American thing and stand his ground.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci are very entertaining. I think
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin was a perfectly good child actor.
No, yeah,
his,
no.
His fate in the movie My Girl remains devastating to this day.
Of course.
But
Because he needs his glasses to be able to see.
yeah. Oh God,
Like,
don't get me going.
He's dead, dumbass. He doesn't need any glasses.
This has been another episode of Scott Respects Grief. Remember, everybody, when you're grieving, this is my opinion.
Use the code StoryPunk 2025 to get your discount off of therapy.
If you're actually grieving, a thing that's can be very hard during the holidays, you can't do it wrong.
Yeah, and don't go near bees. So the bees. Oh no, wait a minute! I'm getting that mixed up with the the bees. See, they should do a mashup of Nicolas Cage and The Wicker Man.
That's not a bad idea. Well, you're an editor; you can do that.
Yeah, the bees.
Well, but so Christmas movies for me, being Jewish and growing up in America, were I didn't feel like deliberately excluded from it or anything, but I was on the outside of that experience, and frankly, I found Christmas again it was not offensive, but it was very intrusive because it takes over everything.
Sure,
it takes over everything in marketing and retail and shopping and popular culture and movies and all that kind of stuff. And so I never said I'm not watching Christmas movies; they suck. But this was a movie I never got around to watching because I didn't grow up watching it and I didn't watch it at Christmas.
It wasn't
and I was delighted that I eventually. Again, thank you, John. Got to It's a Wonderful Life and was like, "Oh shit, this is really good."
So like, and this is probably why you don't see a lot of these, because this is sort of a tradition, like sort of a Christmas tradition that I'm sure that a lot of people that celebrate Christmas will recognize, is that around the holidays, it's like usually like on a weekend or something like that, like especially as you get closer, or like once you are at the point in time where you're like, it's a couple more days, or maybe it's even on Christmas Eve, you just let holiday movies just play on the TV.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
It's just a thing. You just let them run. You're not even necessarily watching them. And so like in our house, like Christmas Vacation, Elf, and Home Alone are playing regularly, unless my youngest son has a fit and says, I don't want to watch these. I'm like, okay. But I mean, like those three movies are constantly playing on our TV around this time of year. It's just one of the things, and it's just something that something that my wife likes. It makes her feel good, and that's just a thing that we do. So, and I'm sure that's probably, I'm going to guess, is not an experience that you have.
Well, I mean, I didn't grow up celebrating Christmas. We had Thanksgiving and stuff, but I mean, to me, if I think of what Christmas movies I would have grown up watching on television, I mean, like I probably saw Miracle on 34th Street on television or something, but you could have put on, Pieces of April or Home for the Holidays or The Baltimoreans, about the actual experience of your family during the holidays, which often sucks.
Yeah,
and that again, this movie, It's a Wonderful Life, is a very emotionally real story set in what is almost a cartoon of this idyllic American small town that doesn't really exist. I mean, it stars Hollow and Gilmore Girls. It's Mayberry. It's all this kind of stuff. But to me, like.
Well, I think it needs to be that way to contrast.
Oh no, and I think I'm not criticizing it at all. I think it's fascinating that it's something that feels that real when it's in something that's such artifice. Yeah, and the fact that it's artifice isn't bad either. But I mean, a couple of my favorite movies, big Hollywood movies, are Ed Zwick movies. Like I love Glory, and I will defend to the end of my life, and we should do an episode on it, The Last Samurai. But the production company that he has with Marshall Hershkovitz that did things like My So-Called Life and 30-something, as well as movies like that and Legends of the Fall and whatever, is Bedford Falls Productions. Like that is two Jewish guys who made a production company to say, these are the kind of stories we want to tell. Yeah. And they happen to be the kind of stories that I like. So that's why, I'm sorry I didn't see the movie 20 years earlier.
One of the things that's interesting too is that the Cap, is talking about like, the creation of Bedford Falls, to make it seem more like a real place. It was intentional that he had certain like minor characters sort of reoccurring. Like you had like martinis, and you had like the bartender, and there's some other characters that kind of were reoccurring, like very minor characters, because he wanted it to feel like a real small town, where it was like you have those people in there that, oh, you run into this guy all the time. Whenever you go to the drugstore, you're always going to run into this guy because he's always there, or or you have this bar or this or whatever. And so that was sort of intentional to kind of make it feel realistic, and not just like a bunch of extras walking around on a set.
Right. It's also an example of an American small town in a movie or a TV show, which was created and released early enough that you actually can't say Simpsons did it first. So that's also pretty good.
I think that's good. So, but yeah, I think overall the one of the things the last point to make for me is that I think that I am certainly going to, given that a lot of these Christmas movies were things that were just thrown on the TV, were like background noise for me. Like once this season came, that was just something that was on the TV all the time, and we do. It's like, honestly, we do it now. I don't even think about it. It's just sort of like the other day, like this weekend, Jane was like, she's oh, let's put on a Christmas movie. Let's put on, like, we just don't even think about it. We just put it on, and it's just, and I think it's just because that's what she grew up with. That's what I grew up with, and so we don't think twice about it. Where you might be like, why the fuck is Elf on in the middle of the day? Like nobody's watching it.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like it's just something we're walking in and out of the room, and like, oh, here's that part. Maybe we'll sit down and watch the part where he's singing "I Love You" to his dad, or he's making fun of Peter Dinklage. You know what I mean? Like,
or when he loses his mind at Artie Lang, Santa sits on the throne of lies. That's the scene I remember the most.
You smell
that
like
and the
beer and sausage,
fucking spaghetti. Oh my god!
But that's like so like you know what I mean? Like, but that would be like where some people might find that if you didn't celebrate Christmas, you'd be like, why are they just letting the movie just play and nobody's watching it? Because especially as people that love movies, you're like, what the fuck? You got a movie going and nobody's watching it? Like, what the? But that's just a thing.
Look, there are. I'm not a person. I mean, I do kind of like movies, but I'm not a person that generally like leaves movies on playing while I don't pay attention.
Like music.
I'd put music on. I wouldn't put movies on, except I would put on just because you don't have to sit through what I'm about to say, but the black and chrome, essentially black and white versions of Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa are very striking images that it's interesting to walk in a room and then see it. So I did not want to let an episode pass by where I didn't mention Mad Max Fury Road, the greatest film ever made.
So, but anyway, so that sort of was.
Those really are the only movies I'll just leave on.
Did you have anything else to add to our Christmas episode?
I think that people should look at movies that maybe that they don't associate with Christmas, that they've heard are Christmas movies. And you start with Die Hard if you want, but just to think about what it means to be a holiday movie. I think that's kind of an interesting exercise if you like movies, and you can think about it in terms of what I said as far as like, this is a Christmas release. Like, is Wicked for Good a Thanksgiving movie? No. But we
all know that Wizard of Oz is an Easter movie. Come on. So.
Yeah, I don't remember which holiday Easter is, but I think
that's the one that takes place in the spring.
That's the one that takes place during Passover.
Yeah, but, there you go. There you go. That is.
Yeah, but
right.
I mean, there are a number of movies that if you look at them through that lens, it's actually kind of it's an interesting way to look at it, especially if you look at movies that you've seen. Like, I never saw this movie before 4 years ago. I never saw Christmas Carol before 4 years ago, and so I brought my own almost lack of experience with them to those movies, to experiencing them. You might say, I've seen this movie 100 times. I've seen A Christmas Story. I saw A Christmas Story in the theater for some reason. I'm not sure why we went, but it was a very sweet movie. The original Christmas Story.
Oh, really?
The Ralph Billingsley.
So what did they just have like some kind of special showing of it?
I don't know. My mom wanted to go to the
that old. So.
No, I saw it in the theater because my mom. I remember there was a theater on Reisterstown Road. It was a movie theater. It was across from the Pikes, I think, and it had like the drama, laughing, crying mask thing on the wall. It had one or two screens, and so that, I guess, my mom wanted to go to the movies, and that was what was playing. So we saw it, and it's a sweet and funny little movie about a small town and growing up and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at movies that you don't necessarily think of as holiday movies, or you go outside of what you think of as holiday movies. It's kind of a fun adventure, like Anna versus the Apocalypse, about a woman and a high school girl and her dad after her mother has died, and Christmas is coming, and it's kind of sad. And then there's a zombie uprising, and also it's a musical. Like there's different stuff that people can play with what makes a holiday movie. And for me, it was a whole world I hadn't ever explored in that lens. But if you grew up with those movies, it's kind of neat to look at other movies and think that, which is why Eyes Wide Shut is a good example, because nobody thinks it's a Christmas movie. Also, people think Eyes Wide Shut is a sex movie. That is a movie that is not sexy at all, except for one scene, which has no nudity in it.
Yeah.
And the last line of that movie is about profanity, a profane word about sex and marriage. But it takes place in a department store at Christmas that feels like Christmas, like all this kind of stuff. So since I am someone that explicitly has learned that I engage with movies emotionally first, and that stories work for me if they work for me emotionally. The idea of the holiday season as an emotional experience has been very interesting for me, but it isn't always positive. And so that's why I'll enjoy Home for the Holidays as much as I'll enjoy Elf.
There you go. And actually, I want to bring up one thing that I saw someone talk about. It's about a Christmas Carol, Christmas story, whatever you want to call it.
Those are two different things. So
what?
A Christmas Carol or a Christmas story.
Why did I say that? That's. Yes, you're right.
I mean, I saw the musical of A Christmas Story. I mean, it's a nice story. But
A Christmas Carol.
The sequel sucks, though.
The Scrooge movie.
So here's Christmas Carol.
Yes.
And I was obsessed when I was growing up. I was obsessed with the Bill Murray one. Scrooge was a movie that I was like, we constantly rented that from the video store. I'm not sure. It wasn't because I love Christmas. I don't know what that was about.
That's a good movie.
Actually. It is a good movie. I think I haven't seen it probably since I was renting it from Blockbuster.
I forgot about that one.
Or from the video store on Reisterstown Road.
What I will
next
say,
to that movie theater.
Someone made a good point online. There's this author. His name's Jason Pargin, who does a lot of like these random like bits of he's interesting. He puts out like these things on social media where it's just like interesting ways of looking at things. And one of the things he talked about he said when you watch any version of A Christmas Carol, he said to tell if the movie really gets who Ebenezer Scrooge is, he said there's a scene in this that the way it was written, the actual Charles Dickens story, with Ebenezer Scrooge and Bob Cratchit, when they are working together in the office, and Bob Cratchit wants to put more coal in the heater.
Yes.
And he says, you can tell by the way that is done if they actually really get the character of Scrooge, because Scrooge isn't just like this like dick who's like, hey, I'm saving my money for me and I'm going to do all these, I'll do it. You have to work and I'm going to. Scrooge is in the office with Bob Cratchit and he'll be freezing too. And he still doesn't want him to put. So it just goes to show that he's miserable.
Yeah.
He has all this money and Scrooge is still fucking miserable. Just a miserable bastard of a person. So I think they said if a movie chooses to include that's such an important, it's a small scene, but it's such an important scene that gives you insight into that character. And I don't know, I just felt like I should bring that up.
Well, I mean, that's because that makes sense, because the story isn't about, man, Scrooge is such a dick.
Yeah.
The story is about he is a miserable person.
Yeah.
And he's miserable to be around. He's miserable interacting with other people, but he's also a miserable person, which is why I said that the Alistair Sim version of the story was my favorite movie. But my favorite version of the story is actually the Doctor Who Christmas Carol special with Michael Gambon, who people know as Dumbledore.
Yeah.
After the original amazing actor. Oh my God, I'm completely blanking on
Richard Harris.
Richard Harris, after he died, Michael Gambon took over. But that is a movie. That is a story about. It's an interesting way to do it, and it's my favorite because I just like it the most. But in that movie, the Scrooge character, who we have to save his soul so that we can save our main characters who are in danger. He's a dick, but he's a dick because he lost his love.
Yeah,
I don't know how much you need to have that in that story, because Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life is a terrible person because wealth has like twisted him.
Yeah.
Whereas, and he's
never seen that happen before.
Right. But I mean, he's got ambitions and all this kind of
yeah.
stuff. Whereas the Scrooge character is
He's
a miserable miser, awful. He's just an awful person, which is why it's, you know, it's very moving at the end, of course, when he changes. I mean, that moment when he opens the windows, the shutters of his home and starts
and he says,
screaming
Merry Christmas, building a
joyful things and all that. Kind of, like it's just very sweet and it's very real because he's not. Because you believe him, because he's so miserable. But for someone to be so obviously sad and so obviously miserable, and I can think of an example of someone who, if he wasn't such a destructive figure in our lives, I would say, wow, this guy, his father seems terrible, and he was never happy, and his whole life is just this man that's just being miserable. He only ever looked happy to me when he was on the campaign trail and he was doing the fry station at McDonald's. It's the only time he ever looked happy. I'd feel bad for someone that has access to all those resources and all those things, and it's just miserable.
Yeah.
But that person in the Christmas Carol story is redeemed by self-reflection. Because you can say that that's a story about a guy who's actually visited by ghosts and stuff like that, or you could say it's by a guy who had a rather illuminating series of dreams. I mean, either way, he looks at himself and he sees who he really is and could be.
It is like someone who had their light kind of like dimmed or even extinguished, and the light comes back at the end.
Right. And the inverse of that is Jimmy Stewart's character in this movie, where he was always good.
Yeah.
He just didn't believe it meant anything.
Yeah. So anyway, that was
So anyway, Scott, happy Hanukkah.
And Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And good luck on getting some good socks. Isn't that what I don't know. I don't know a lot. I just know that you
Here's the thing about Hanukkah.
Yeah,
okay.
Enlighten me.
You know, Ariel Elias is a very funny comic. I'm going to go see her in February. She's the comic who became instantly known nationally because she was doing a show when some drunk couple in the audience threw the beer.
Yes, I did.
And she dodged it, which is very athletic.
I thought she caught it.
Well, I think she dodged it, and then she picked it up and she drank it.
Oh, okay.
And then she was on Kimmel, all this kind of stuff. She's very funny. And a lot of
I know
her,
you're talking about.
a big chunk of her stuff is about being like the only Jew in Kentucky, all that kind of stuff. But she just put a thing up that she's like, please stop asking your Jewish friends when Hanukkah is.
Yes, I saw that.
Because we don't know.
She goes, we don't know. She goes, usually somebody a friend puts a menorah on their Instagram.
Right,
I saw that. That was
because we don't know, because it's not important. So I did not grow up with like, I don't celebrate Christmas. I have my own version.
Yeah.
Hanukkah is a very interesting holiday, and the story of Hanukkah.
The story is very interesting.
It's very violent, and it's about religious zealots committing
it's like an
violence.
action movie.
Yeah, which is why Mel Gibson has been trying to make it for years.
He wants to make it really violent, I'm sure.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, it's about an army of religious zealots that would attack other Jews almost as much as they might attack the Assyrian invaders. So Mel loves that stuff as much as he hates Jews. But but Ariel Elias, like, she basically says in like 3 sentences that like, it's not an important holiday. It's not a holiday.
Yeah.
It's not celebrated. It's the classic Jewish model. They tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat, that kind of thing. And I love potato pancakes, but it's not a major holiday.
I know,
and part of why you
people
know it's not a major holiday is there aren't dozens of movies about it.
I think that a lot of people are trying to like, oh, they think it's like an analog to Christmas.
Right.
It's a different story.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out how I could do the first Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur movie and really make it a breakthrough.
Yeah. I know it's a I saw there's a thing with an old Saturday Night Live skit with Jim Belushi saying, he's talking about Hanukkah, and he's like, they're talking about the miracle of Hanukkah. He goes, you know what? He goes, if I get a few extra miles of gas in my gas tank, they're not making a holiday for me.
Oh my God. Well, there are Jewish holiday movies, even if they're not explicitly made, for the Jewish community, like Ten Commandments.
You mean the 15?
The 15. Oi.
I'm sorry.
And that really kind of dreadful Ridley Scott version. What was it called? Gods in Exodus and Kings, Gods something. It was with Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton.
Oh God.
And it's not good. And Prince of Egypt, which I didn't care for. But yeah, so thank you for joining us for this holiday season, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we should probably wrap this up because I'm yapping.
That's why I just said that. Thanks for showing them inside baseball about how the episode works.
I'm showing, like we talked about the one episode, so I'm showing the threads.
That's right.
So there you go. So anyway, that's a wrap.
Fraying.
There you go. Or the bones.
The bones.
Like our F1 episode. So no, that's not what we talked. Never mind. Anyway, so
F none of our episodes, by the way.
So that's a wrap on It's a Wonderful Life, and we'll be back next week when we protect the studio from pesky thieves with our DIY traps and Christmas spirit.
You'll have to tell me what that is.
I don't know. And so in the meantime, follow us on Storypunk Pod on Instagram, and you'll get our updates there. I have to be a little more timely. I forgot to put the one for our latest episode. And
well, they've already all listened to F1.
Yes,
Thank you for listening. I think
you.
that's a fun episode.
We do appreciate that. And you'll find out when our next episode drops. And it's every Thursday. There's the spoiler on that one. And we are on all the
unless it's Thanksgiving.
Yes, unless it's Thanksgiving. We actually did do that one a little bit earlier. It's at least every Thursday, sometimes a little bit earlier. I think I am going to release the. I might release the. This one will probably be before Thursday, I think, because I think.
Well, everybody who's already listening to this right now will already know that, so I'm glad we're telling
really
them.
Dumb. Sorry. Well, okay, so the next one, the one you're here next week, will be a couple of days early.
And you never know. We are now moving into awards season, and
Yes.
lots of times the awards go to movies that aren't necessarily good, but there are a lot of good movies. So we may end up having to do another emergency episode, we did for One Battle After Another. But I can promise you that emergency episode will not be about Avatar. Oof. Ash and fire and smoke and ash and yeah, not for me.
That was on another site. Anyway, so they but anyway, yeah, so follow us on Storypunk Pod on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. You can find us if you stumbled upon us some drunken way, you had too much spiked eggnog and you're like, how did I find this podcast? We're on all the major podcast platforms and the little ones too. And if you don't know how to find us, you can't find us in your favorite one, just let us know.
Just message us.
Message us on Instagram is probably the best.
And Letterboxd.
Oh, yes. We're on Letterboxd. I am Storypunk Scott, and Drew is also on Letterboxd. And he will now tell us what.
Solid Gold.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that is all we have to say about Christmas and Hanukkah and It's a Wonderful Life and all those other great holiday movies.
Are you sure? Because I feel like we've been wrapping up for like 12 minutes.
Not 12 minutes. Hush you.
18.
Hey, it's not as good as your intro to Jason X, but
that's true. That's true. That was very moving.
Was very moving.
Well, it's like Smartless when they're like, we're gonna try to surprise the other two people with who the guest is, but the episode's called Julia Roberts. So it's not that
that's really funny. All right. So with that, I will say, remember that story matters.